When I was a boy, there's nothing I like better than going fishing with my daddy. Well, we go down there on the pond where the fishing was the best. We cross over the bridge and just sit on the other side. And one hot July day, just like today, Daddy said, "Son, today's the day we're going to go fishing." I said, "Oh, Daddy, I love to go fishing." He said, "I know you do." And so we got our fishing poles and our lines. We went over the bridge, over the water until we got on the other side. And I'd sit there and Daddy would tell me stories, just like I'm telling you. And we would have the best time, and I'd listen. And I had my line out there, and all of a sudden, a big old fish came swimming around, and he went, whoop, right on my hook. I said, Daddy, look, I caught that fish. He said, whoa, that is a big fish. I said, I know. Now, we got that fish out of the water. Now, I was 9 years old at the time. And that fish stood taller than I was. It was huge, and it took both of us to carry that bass fish back to the house. Now, we didn't have ice. You know, like you folks have ice to keep things cold and fresh. We didn't have ice, but we had newspaper. And we wrapped them up in newspaper to keep them really moist and fresh. We put them out there on the porch. He said, Mama, come here and see the bass fish I caught. Well, we unwrapped him from the newspaper, and there he was, just lying there. And she said, whoa! That is a big fish. I said, I know. And I got it. She said, I know you did. Well, they went back inside, and there was that bass fish lying there dead, just like this. I said, Mama, Daddy, come quick, look, that fish is alive again. Now, Dad, when he ran out, now he was smart, and Mama let him think he was too. And he just looked down and he said, you know, there was enough moisture on that newspaper. What kept him alive? I said, that's right. I said, but we can't eat him. Mom said, no, you can't eat a fish till it's dead. I said, well, that makes sense. I said, what are we going to do? She said, just let him die overnight down in the yard. I said, oh, okay. So we carried him down there and there. Now, I'm telling you, do you know what it's like to try to get to sleep when you're excited about something the next day? Like it's your birthday. Huh? And you're really excited, or it's Christmas, or maybe it's a liar's contest, or the first day of school. You know what it's like, you're just, except the teacher. Well, you're just so excited, and you look. I could not get to sleep, but I did. You know how I know? I woke up. I flew up them stairs, and there was that bass fish. He was lying there in the yard, just dead, just like this. I said, Mama, Daddy, come quick. That fish is alive again. And then right out in the yard, and there was that bass fish lying there. Daddy said, there's enough dew on the grass. What kept him alive? I said, you know, if we just keep him kind of moist and fresh, and maybe I could keep him for a pet. Where are you going to keep up? You know, Mama, let's get that bathtub filled up. And we filled up that bathtub. I made sure it was the right temperature, just like down at the pond. And that Mr. Bass, he'd swim around in the bathtub. He'd just having the best time. And I had to go do my homework because I was going to summer school. They didn't like math, and math didn't like me. And there I was working. I thought, I better go check on Mr. Bass. I went back in the water. It had done drained out of that tub. You see his back, then it caught that chain and pulled up the plug. And all the water had done drained out. I said, Mama, come here. Daddy, come here, look. And there was that bass fish, he just lying there like this. I said, he's alive again, it's a born-again fish. And there he was alive because, you see, Daddy was smart, but he didn't fix nothing around the house. And so there was a drip. A dripping? Don't laugh. The drip was coming down on his little nose and kept him alive. I said, oh my gosh, I am going to keep propel, which is keep him moist. First thing I'm going to teach him to do is how to be mobile on the earth. And so I got him up on his back beam and I gave him a push. And it was just perfect. He just went all on. He followed me to the grocery store. He followed me to the drug. He followed me everywhere I went. Mr. Bass just followed me. Just keep him a little moist, put a little hose water on him, spray him a little and keep him clean. He was so happy. I thought, I don't like to cut the grass. I taught him how to walk behind the lawnmower. He made the most perfect rows. He'd just go up and down, and he cut the Joneses' grass next door, and he made $43.80. That summer cutting grass, and you think, what do you do with that? Well, he loved to go to the movies. Yeah, you had to stand him up in the back. He get in bed like this, and he loved any movies like with fish in them, especially Flipper. And I was a teenage flipper in London. That was his favorite movie. We'd go back to, I don't know how many times we had to see that movie. And then he liked those dots to eat, but he doesn't have fingernails like us. You had to get him out of his little teeth, the dots, but he loved them. He loved the dots. I mean, this is his favorite thing. And I heard there was a hula hoop contest at Cat's drugstore. And I thought, so I taught him how to do the hula hoop. And I was good at it, and I taught him how. We went to Cat's drugstore, and we got in the contest, just like the liars contest. They had a hula hoop contest. And Mr. Bass, he won another hula hoop. That thing was sparkly and all colors, and he just loved it. And, well, then, after that, we kept playing music for him, especially Mozart. When he'd sleep, because like babies, if you do Mozart, they get real smart. Well, we did that with Mr. Bass. We played, he loved him. Oh my gosh, he loved Amadeus, the movie and everything, and Mozart. And I think he got smart because he wanted to go to college. And we said, now, I don't know. He goes, yeah, I want to go to Harvard. Now, the way you think he talked, but he didn't have vocal cords. No. But we used semaphore with flags. It's true. So he could communicate, and we could communicate, and they allowed him to go and get an SAT test. Now, when he took it, he was tutored by Mrs. Salmon next door. And she tutored him on the SAT. He didn't get into Harvard, but you know what he got into? Missouri State in Springfield. And they had the dorm. Oh my gosh, he loved the dorm. Nobody wanted a room with him though, so he got his own room and everything, just keep him moist. And then he wanted to study ichthyology. And he studied ichthyology at that university, and he was getting his group, and he said, with the semaphore, I want to go to Culinary Institute at the Sorbonne for a semester abroad. And so we fixed it. We raised money, And everybody helped Mr. Bass study culinary arts at the Sorbonne. It's his favorite thing. He didn't like to do the sushi. I know, it just kind of bothered him. Well, I notice that some of you have been laughing and embarrassing yourself. Because you think this is a comedy, but it's a tragedy. Because after he graduated and everything, he came home, and Daddy said, "Hey, it's a hot July day. Let's go fishing." I said, "Daddy, don't say fishing in front of the F-I-S-H. He said, "Why not?" I said, "He'd be thinking we're killing his relatives down at the pond." He said, "Nope, he's just like us." So there we were that fateful day. We started across the bridge, first Daddy, and then me, followed by Mr. Bass with the fishing pole. And I told you Daddy never fixed nothing. And there was a loose board, and he slipped out of the water and he drowned. And I thought, no, he can't drown. He can't drown. I jumped in, grabbed him, pulled him on the shore, and gave him mouth-to-fish resuscitation. Yes. But then Mom and Daddy talked to me. They said, you ought to let him just get used to the water again and have his own life. And I finally agreed. I got him used to the rain barrel, and I got him used to a little part of the pond, and I let him go. And he kind of, went on his side, and then he kind of waved goodbye like, "I love you," kind of tried to make a heart, but he didn't. And he just waved, and I said, and I thought, you know what? It's right, because fish, like friends, need to be free. And that's a true story, and I would eat fried chicken before I'd ever tell you a lie.